to be there. Try to protect my heart with wisdom. Broken dreams I repair.
You released a couple singles in 2003. Both of them are going to be on the new album. Is it the same versions,
Well,
or
it was,
did you record them?
yeah, well, it was, well, I think he meant 2023, maybe.
Did I say 2003?
Yeah,
I did that same thing the other day.
that's okay. No, 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 it's okay. I think it's been happening. It's okay. Yeah. And the funny thing about these other, yeah, they're the same singles. I'm pretty sure. I think the Every Time one, I could be wrong on this. I'm not sure if it has like an intro that wasn't on the single. I don't know if we released the single without the intro. There's like a kind of a little bridge or a kind of thing before the song kicks into gear. The actual, it's funny because even with like this STFU and then the Happy Now that were recently, I'm not, I don't know. Just for me, I'm kind of not really a fan of releasing a single before an album. I'm just kind of like, man, much less kind of even announcing an album release. My fiance says stuff like, she's like, the cool bands, they don't do this big kind of like hand wavy thing before they just release stuff. I was like, damn it. And then but we live in this era where it's like you gotta be a good salesperson, you gotta be a good PR person, a good, you know what I mean? It's like, and I get that on some level. I used to get the shits with Kanye West of like, the way he's like, this is the greatest thing you've ever heard, and whatever. I'm going like, okay, it's good to have confidence. I get that, and maybe, Kanye's done some songs I don't hate or whatever. But yeah, so these are the same ones. It's like, and one of those like Bite Your Tongue, the cover, which we call the covered song, on some levels, like what's in the cupboard at the top, like is not Danny on drums, and you'll hear it, because anyway, Danny's a sublime drummer and a sublime person and a musician, and so you'll hear those differences. So Danny, I think it's kind of funny because Danny's heard the song and he's like, it's like, man, I don't want people thinking that's me. It's like, no, 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 it's listed. Don't worry. Da, da, da. Not that he isn't impressed by that kid's abilities, certainly a live setting and whatever. But it's a different kind of approach. But yeah, so I've never really been a fan of this thing with these singles. To me, it's kind of like it's like when you see a trailer and you see all the good bits in the trailer. You're like, I don't even have to see the movie now. But I don't know. Maybe my intuition about it is flawed. But yeah. So, and then STFU used to be called Desolë, which is the name of the album. And then I was just gonna try to clear this up quickly. My fiance did the artwork for the album cover, which I think is really cool looking, and she was going off of the presumption that the album was going to be called Grumpy Library or Library, and we intentionally misspell it because the way I sing that line in the song, with those that extra syllable, and but it's like she was creating artwork for Grumpy Library, because like somebody asked me that question recently and I was just like, they're like, well, what was the thinking behind the thing? And I kind of like blanked on it, and I was just like, and then I just had a conversation with her yesterday or the other day, and it was just like, she's like, yeah, I thought it was going to be Grumpy, so I was doing this. I was like, oh my god, because in the final moment before we were like, what are we going to call the album? Like I deferred to Angus, our guitarist and slash producer, and he was like, I think Desolé is a good, and I was like, okay, because I was like, I don't know, Grumpy Library. I'm like, I don't know, it just didn't. People like, it has to be a title of one of the songs, or somebody had said at some point, and I'm like, does it though? It's like, anyway. But I'm with this album, I'm trying to defer to my bandmates, ideas about things more, and not be such a control freak, because I'm absolutely a control freak. On some level, sometimes in good ways. Other times it's just like, man, no, this is how I wrote it. I want to play. It's just like, but that takes some of the vitality out of the music when you're trying to do this Frank Zappa thing and control every damn note, and every damn this and that. And Angus and I are are a couple of loudmouths. That's another way of saying we've got big personalities. Um, kind of diminutive dudes that have big voices and ideas, and so we butt heads quite a lot. And God bless him for that, because he really is like the quality control guy in the band. And whereas I'm like, yeah, it's close enough is good enough as far as like a sound or a signal chain with the music. Um, and sometimes that's not the case. I don't know. I always kind of go off the shitty. It's pretty. If I get a good performance out of a thing, I'm not worried about, if a thing was an actual instrument or MIDI kind of instrument, and that's the real audiophiles out there be like, it's not good enough, and they're probably right. Sorry. So back to your original question. Sorry, you mentioned the singles being released. Sorry. Try
Okay.
to get back on track.
So speaking of Grumpy Library, you released that as a single before your two releases in 2019. It used to be up on the Bandcamp.
How dare you? How dare
How
you
dare I
let
have
let?
this
How
information?
dare you? How dare you have that wiki information or take us to task? Yes, yeah.
I,
But that, yeah. Anyway, it was a different version, and in a way, this album is kind of like a shoring up of like maybe some little bit older ideas that, and then I'm just kind of like, I've got some of these rock songs. Let's just get them out of the way, and blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, we're putting a lot of money into recording them properly, and with the legendary Danny Heifetz on drums. Yeah, so and in some ways it's like and then we even have like an old song that I recorded with Bongo back in the days of mine that never was properly released. And again, that wasn't my idea. It was kind of like, I'm like, I don't know, I'm not really whatever. And Angus was really into it. Shane was really into it, and people were like, "Oh, it's a good piece of music. We should really do it." And I kind of like, "Okay, I'll go along with it." And here we are. So this is me trying to kind of like, but yeah. So a lot of the stuff is cleaning out the closet of like some of these old rock songs or higher energy, kind of more straight ahead rock pop songs, and yeah, some of it isn't the freshest material, but these guys believe in these compositions as like, no, this is good music and we should do it right. And then so here we are. But yeah, I did. Yeah, some of these things people might be like, haven't I heard this? And it's like,
well, well, see,
yeah.
I was disappointed because I love that song, and then I hopped up on there one day and it was just gone, and I'm like, where did my Grumpy Library go?
There you go. Well, and it's um our manager, well, now our former manager was sort of like, she's like, no, you shouldn't just have these things up there. And there was like a little bit of thinking that was like, I don't know. And again, she's not here right now, so I can't really speak for her. But she was like, no, I think she was trying to. Yeah, I don't really know what the idea was with that as far as taking it down. Maybe it was because in the lead up to the album or something, it was like, yeah, we shouldn't have these because there's going to be this better, more improved thing. Anyway. So
What
yeah,
what
I honestly I can't really explain, because again, it was like it's me sort of relinquishing control of a direction of a thing, and then them kind of going like, yeah, and then, but yeah, the really like people like yourself that have been paying attention and keeping score are going to be like, yeah, actually, blah, 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 blah. And then like, there could be a post-mortem on these things where it's just like, and then people could compare and contrast some of these things and go like,
well,
discuss the
those
the
who are
different.
cool enough to get the track while it was still available.
There you go. I mean, yeah, and it's sort of like it makes it, I don't know, it's addition by subtraction maybe, insofar as like you've got this thing that's now a little more scarce, like the other version of it that you have. Yeah. So but on some level, I'm like, oh shit, this feels a little cunty or a little bit like, I don't know. As far as like taking down an old version of a thing, and then whatever. But then there's, there might be real business people that goes like, no, this is controlling the output, and then I don't know. I really I can't explain. Like Angus would probably have a better answer for that if he were here. But yeah.
Yeah, so I like the it almost seems the direction you have been going to where it is more poppy rock songs that you have
Thanks, man.
compiled because let's see, the Kitsugi, like half of the song, most of the songs had lyrics to it, whilst before it was more instrumental tracks with
Yeah,
occasional lyrics thrown in. But that last
that's
EP was great. It was great shit. I fucking loved it.
thanks, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, because again, I'm like, I've been answering some of these questions about this music where I'm like, oh, and then I kind of I accuse other people of having short memories about things, and then I'm like, oh wait, I've been singing on a few things since even the first album, and then sometimes it was maybe even like the Poverty album was more, if that was the second proper album, it's like it had so much instrumental stuff on it. It was a very chamber pop kind of stuff. You know, I don't know. It's weird. It's like it's been really hard having like a 7-piece or even a 6-piece band, and I've gone through so many like permutations of horn players with a vibes guy or an extra percussionist or an actually dedicated keyboardist and this and that. And I really hate having to be kind of not only a band leader but sort of a, I don't know. It just feels like when just arranging for just a rehearsal with 7 people, it's like it's enough to kind of make me want to put my head through a window. Insofar as like I don't want to be like an accountant. I don't want to be a manager. I just want to like I want there in the room and because it's just like that whole thing of like the back and forth of like having these little text chains or group messages and people saying, no, I can do this, but I can't do that, and, and then I can't really pay people. People are kind of doing it or volunteering their own time. I try to, when we've had money, I try to give it to them and whatever. And if we ever, manage to do something like that or make some money in these rare moments on these things, but it's essentially an expensive hobby. And then I'm asking favors of people of their time. And then it was like with the 4-piece thing, it was just like, I'm like, Angus, you're going to need to be playing a lot of keyboard parts, which were sort of formerly horn parts. And so he's having to play guitar, sing, and then play a keyboard part, and then back, and then repeat, kind of thing. And then even Shane on the bass with the Moog. And then, so it's like, and then sometimes I'm getting Danny to play, you play the melody, Danny, on this ballad while you can play drums with the other hand. And there's sometimes there's a reluctance to it, whether people are having a great day or a bad day or difficulty with their parenting. That sounds weird,
Wait,
but
wait, so
no,
you
just
have
like
him back there on the drums switching instruments?
not so much switching instruments as it is just like because he's done that in Bungle back in the day, whether he whips out his trumpet and decides to I'm going to play my trumpet just because he keeps himself interested and he's I mean, this guy will change a cymbal and keep a beat, and it'll be the most in mid song, and it'll be the funnest part of the show you saw, right? We've all seen him, and that's part of what's his brilliance is that he's not just playing drums and then just sitting there and da da da. He's like it's like if you just watch Danny in any concert. He's doing his own show. The guy's phenomenal, and he's entertaining. And he's interesting, and all the things. And So it's but yeah, I think there was on Dane Bramage, we were sort of like playing it in the recent gigs we've done, a new kind of arrangement of it on some levels, and then it was like we need this, and he was like, oh, I'll play the melody of this, I'll play the melody at certain points when he can, when it's just like sort of like the ballad part or this thing, and it's always like some really, you know, novel cool little Casio keyboard or something, or some kind of half broken keyboard, and so it adds extra charm to it, you know, to do that. So the four piece thing was more like I got sick of trying to, and it was just like, and musicians are pretty flaky at the best of times, and it was just like, and I don't know, and some of the people we were working with weren't the most dependable or something, and it was just like I'd rewritten horn parts and then shifted them around for like 3 or 4 songs, like so many times. It was like it was kind of maddening, and that you know, I was trying to make it more of a movable thing or more of a tourable thing to have like four people, and then like people kind of like, you know, having to double on instruments or triple on instruments, not usually triple, but at least double. And then, you know, and so I don't know. And then some of the rock songs, and then it was like thinking like we need to have it kind of be more high energy and kind of things instead of these introspective like chamber pop things where the audience is kind of like, yeah, if they're really interested, of course they're, but it's like I just wanted to be more of a party thing, or more of a, yeah, that sounds stupid, but more of just a high energy kind of thing. And I, you know, I wanted to do my rock star flopping around on stage, or I want to crowd surf now or something kind of things, because I don't feel like I've gotten that out of my system, you know, when I'm in better health, you know, I'm sort of like, I want to like thrash around or stalk the stage like David Yao from Jesus Lizard or whatever. The Jesus Lizard. It's just like, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and the you know, it's like the music sometimes that I've done in the past is, and well, I don't know, the music I've just done for the Umlaut stuff has been pretty intricate, and it actually needs 7 people to do it properly. But it just, whether it's like a cost prohibitive thing or a stage, you know, room on stage prohibitive thing, or I'm just like I'm tired of having to kind of like corral 7 people or whatever, even though I'm kind of leaning back towards like we should probably get a dedicated keyboardist or maybe another horn player in there to do the music properly. We're sort of leaning that way a little bit, and maybe that might be a thing if we do some more local shows here. But yeah, well, yeah, okay, I'll stop now.
Well, it sounds to me like you're streamlining it right now. And if you add anybody extra, that's just to give it more accent, right?
Yeah,
Working out
that's kind of the thing.
you're working out your process. It sounds like it's going to work.
Yeah, and it's also like I think there's a lot to be said for like a 4 piece or a 3 piece. Like I in a almost in a perfect world, if I would be doing like a 3 piece, we could just do like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it is a thing where I feel like there's a lot more punch to like a power trio, like a guy on synth, a guy on drums, and then a guy with a horn that maybe has some effects pedals. I'm just like, there's something really kind of like, wow. And even as a listener, you know, there's more than 3 or 4 things going on. It's just kind of like, oh, the ears kind of like, what am I listening to? And it can turn into a bit of mud, or it's just like, yeah, it's I think there can be a lot of power and punch to like a 4 piece or less. And that's kind of what the thing is sometimes, even though maybe I struggle to kind of like figure out how to make that really work in a proper way. But that's kind of the thinking, yeah, definitely.
Word, word.
Worry what I too much sucrose. Now his fat lip grows.
A question: since Mr. Bungle has gotten back together, has Umlaut gotten a lot more attention?
I don't know. It's I maybe we have. Um, Yeah, I mean, probably in the accretive sense it has, like in the cumulative sense it has. But I don't really know. I'm not, because again, I'm not really looking at comments or looking at the analytics of things so much. Um, and in fact, I'm kind of terrified even to watch back these interviews, whether it's like, I'm like, Jesus, look at all that crap behind me. Is that going to be setting people off with the OCD? Are they going to be like, why is this kind of stuff like this, and then this stuff over here is like this? Or just looking at my own face, or hearing my own voice, or hear my rambling kind of rants. Generally, I'm not trying to look at what I'm not looking at comments. I hate to inform everybody. I appreciate that people have their things to say, and I appreciate the love or the support 100% that people have, and I know there's quite a few people out there that are dedicated and interested in all these things. But so honestly, to answer that question, I mean, it's like, answer the question properly. I don't really know. And on some level, maybe I don't want to know, because it's like, because if it isn't the case, I don't want to let it in. I don't want to feel like, oh, because ultimately, it's like, I'm doing this whether or not people care. I'm doing this whether or not people are kind of interested. And, you know, I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes because if I really, when people do these things like, oh, if Miles Davis was still alive today, and I apologize to the listeners who heard me say this in the other interview the other day, but when people say like, if Miles Davis was still alive, he'd be blah 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 blah, and that kind of shit. I'm like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, okay, it's the guys, whatever. And then I also have the shits with when people do this, like, it's been 30 years since it's like, those are the same kind of people that say I'm getting too old for this shit, or say that stuff out loud and believe it. It's like, I'm like, I don't know, because a lot of that might be true for me. I might be like, I had this thought, and again, I'm repeating myself. I'm aware of that, so don't at me or come for me or whatever. You know, I've been playing saxophone for a lot of years, but you know what I'm not going to do, Billy, is I'm not going to sit here and think about how many years it's been, because I could sit there easily and go, wait, I should be this much better, or I should have done this, or should have done that. And it's just, again, it goes into this should, could, would thing. When I hear those fucking three words, I'm always like, yeah, there should be a cure to cancer. I should have been born as Brad Pitt or whatever the fuck. It's like, stop doing that. Stop doing this like, because it's in this. The language that we use is the reality that we see. You know, it's like when you say like, oh, I had a dream about blah blah blah. It's like, no, you didn't have a fucking dream. A dream had you. It's in the language, and we use this stuff all the time, where it's like, we don't hear the way we're speaking, and then we don't realize the lives that we're living. There's like this kind of, there's not much awareness around it. Like, words matter, language matters. And I had this thought, or maybe the thought had me. I'll try to be fair to this thing, and because language is constantly misrepresenting the reality of what we're experiencing. And I apologize to all the philosophy majors and or philosophy out there, but I always think, as we speak, so shall we think, or something. I got the mess up my line or something, and I really believe that. If you say like, I'm getting too old for this, or if we say stuff, we let ourselves say stuff, because there might be a thought that comes up. It's like, notice the thought, challenge the thought. And now, I don't do this. I've never managed to do this. I aspire to do it, but it would sound strange to say. Just for example, bear with me here, unintended. Um, you know, uh, we might say, I'm trying to stay with my train of thought here. We might say like, I've got a bad back, right? That may be true, but the more you fucking say that, the more it's going to be true. So don't, maybe let that thought happen, because that's what's going to do. It's going to appear, but you don't have to say it out loud, because you're programming. And again, somebody can say, oh, that's some woo bullshit, Bear. That's some like new age crap. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe so. But I just feel like, you know, it's weird. They've proven that people that have positivity or more of a positive outlook, you know, their brains work better. It's like when we get angry and we can't think or solve a problem, or it's like, I can't find these keys. I'm like, and you're getting stressed out. It's because blood flow is going from your brain to your extremities for fight or flight. And, you know, it's like your brain is actually working worse. So when we're angry, we're stupider. Let me say that again. When we're angry, we're stupider. Now, anger is just energy, but you know, so I can't remember where this rant started, but it's like I feel like language is important. And you know, even in, you know, sometimes I wonder why my some of my lyrics are terrible. And I'm like, oh, it's because of the way I write music is I'll be driving, I'll be doing my commute, and I'll be like trying out a phrase to get to a melody, and then or trying a melody and then trying to fit a phrase to that melody, and then a thing comes out, and then you have something like the Tarnished Legacy, which is the first track off the album, or you even have like Desolë, also known as STFU, or maybe STFU, formerly known as Desolë. You know, so it's like, and I anyway, I was wondering like why, how come I'm like lyrically some, I'm not that, you know, I'm not a poet maybe. And I recently was listening to some old Cheap Trick songs, which is what I was sort of steeped in a little bit when I was a little kid growing up. And I was hearing these like, I want you to want me, I need you to need me, you know, whatever that song. And it's like, and it's like, oh, he's taking one phrase and just like saying it over and over again. And I'm like, oh shit, that's where I get that terrible kind of like lyrical kind of thing from. I'm like, the guy in Cheap Trick was also terrible at lyrics. I'm terrible at lyrics. I was steeped in that, but I'm like, I also like the idea of just repeating a phrase and like, even like Chill Pill off the first album was kind of like dumb as dog shit in a lot of ways, and just repeat. No, I appreciate it. It's like, but repeating a phrase and whatever. I'm like, and I've made peace with it. I've made peace with, you know, a lot of things in recent years. The good thing is you get into your 50s, you stop giving a fuck in a lot of ways, and then you turn into a Karen. You know, apologies to all the Karens out there, and you become a bit of a menace. But I don't know. But yeah, so I can't remember where this
No,
rant
okay.
started.
Oh,
When the woman you love decides it's time, you have to bite your tongue. Believe it will make you unlikable. I can't believe you threw your love away. You can't get enough of getting rid of me. What's in the cupboard at the top? You should be already used to this.
so let me not let me
Yeah.
jump in and say I love your cheesy lyrics because they are catchy and they do get stuck in your head. You're
Thanks,
just
man.
walking down the road, you gotta be, why you gotta be like that? You know, you don't have to be like that. Right. So like it's fucking catchy. It's catchy, you know.
Thanks, man.
Rodney, what did we gotta do? When they tell me to bend over.
I know. I'm
Oh,
like, oh my God, I put that into a song. I'm like, oh, dude, it's shocking. But yeah, I
no,
wonder if that song's, yeah. Anyway,
it'll go
go ahead.
down as a classic in the history.
I'm, you know, it's funny. I'll say quickly. My kid, when you know, Chill Pill came out, and they was like, he was whatever, he might have been 9 or 10 or something. They were somewhere in that age range, and he and his friend, you know, as these little kids were like, they were going like, yeah, one time we counted how many times he said the F word in that song, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, I'm a bad dad, you know, like that was like, but I thought how funny that was, where like my kid was like counting how many times I was saying the F word. They were like with his friend, you know, listening to the song, and like, but I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, these things just come out, and I'm like, oh, whatever. It's just that's how it's coming out, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm just going to let it be what it's going to be, and you know, there we are, you know. But hey, because here's another thing I'll say on those things about this lyrical kind of thing. Like I've been working on some other stuff to kind of keep my sanity in me, because this album has actually been ready for a little over a couple of years, and I have almost lost my mind in those 2 years of like getting the frustration of waiting and people saying like, yeah, you got to do it right, it's got to be on vinyl and blah blah blah. And I've just been like, dude, none of us are getting any younger, you know. And when you get in your 50s, you really realize that, and you just kind of like, there's almost this kind of like, come on, come on, come on, come on, we got to do stuff, you know, da da da, got to get stuff out. People are like, yeah, we got plenty of time. I'm like, do we though? But let's anyway. There's songs where I'll just have some kind of gibberish, you know. I think of we can maybe um highlight Celentano, who apparently had like a hit in Italy, maybe in the late 60s, early 70s, probably. I don't know. And it was just like gibberish of him trying to sound like an American, doing some American vocals, but the whole song was just gibberish. But it was a hit in the day, right? And there's a song I've done recently. I've done recently where I had kind of a guide track where I'm just kind of trying to like make up syllables or sounds to go along with a melody, and then most of the song is just me just doing like sounds, and then I'm listening back going like, oh, it sounds like I'm saying a certain thing, and then when I retake the vocal, I turn it into the what the word that it sounds like, and I'm like, I'm imagining like the lyric sheet, and it's just going to be, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, that's kind of sounds like I'm saying this, so that's just going to be the lyric, right? And that's sort of a fun device for me. And then it's also kind of the thing of going like realizing like, okay, this sounds a little bit wonky, but I'm just not going to redo the vocal. I'm just going to like, that's what the vocal is. So a real artist or a better artist might go, I'm going to go and redo that thing. And I'm like, nope, it is what it is. And then in other parts of the song, there's actual lyrics that come through. But you know, that whole thing, like, there's always that time when you listen to a song, you're like, you can't really tell what the hell he's saying, whether it's like that Peter Gabriel song where he's saying shock the monkey or whatever, or it's like that was like, I don't know what's that, blinded by the light, wrapped up in a douche. Everybody hears wrapped up in a douche, you know, and he's not saying wrapped up in a douche. Apologies to all the people that needed to get a douche today. Sorry to the people who are a little more sensitive to things, but we hear things the way we hear them, and then we create our own meaning out of it, and then we're like, it's what it is for us, and maybe it's even a fun thing, and maybe it's a whole thing, right? A whole genre of listening or styles and kind of things. It's like, you know, and it means a different thing to everybody. So I'm like, people ask me these questions where like, so tell me about the album. What's the album about? I'm like, and I think, and I've said this 1,000 times, I apologize, but you know, it's whatever it is for the listener, you know, whatever it means to you, and wherever you were in your life when you heard it, and if it was a banger and you were 17 and it was like, yeah, man, like da, da, da. That's why so many people, we all love the music that we heard in our teenage years and in our 20s when life was simpler and all these things. It's because it means something to you. It's because you're time traveling back to a simpler time. And when you were 17 and even in your 50s, you still feel that like that clueless 18 or 19-year-old or whatever. So that's why it's special to you, you know, and it's like it imprints on us, right? So apologies for stating the obvious, but yeah,
So
back to
now,
you.
so you just beat me to a question that I was forming, which was, now that this album's released, you feel as if you could work on some new music, but you say, I already got a new one that
Yeah.
you just had built.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and there's some really great stuff on there too, you know? And so, because that's what people always do. They're sort of like, yeah, so what's next? You know, you put an album out, and I'm always like, but have you listened to the other thing? Have you scrutinized those lyrics and said like, what is the narrative here, Bear? Is this all first person, or is this like you, or is it like another narrator and then you and then da, 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 and it's just like, and so there's a lot of scrutinizing that can go on. But so yeah, and again, I'm excited for it. I'm very excited for it, and I still don't know when exactly it'll come out, but I'm certainly not going to wait as long as this one has taken as far as that goes. And I'm not trying to steal any focus from the Desolé album, you know. And by the way, with the Desolé, we are aware that it's like it's got the wrong accent on the last E of the thing as far as like doing the proper French spelling of the word. So, and like that was just somebody said, like, yeah, let's throw an umlaut on top of that E. I'm like, okay, it's just like this is going to confuse people, probably enrage others, or just like, I think I've seen, I think I saw the one comment that I did kind of sneak through the whatever is like somebody said like, so we settled. I think it was I can't remember whose comment it was, but it was on something that Angus had posted, and they was going like, hey, can we change the name of the album or some kind of thing? And I thought that was kind of funny. And of course, it got a bunch of laugh emojis because it was just sort of like people can, anyway, it's just like, the sorry thing is like, even though it's in French, but I don't know. I thought on some level it would sort of speak to even though it wasn't really my choice, it was sort of Angus was like, I reckon Desolé. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And then later on, I'm like, can't answer the question of like, why, what's up with the artwork? And then Ada was like, oh, it's the Grumpy Library. And it's like, yeah. So it'll still come through, and people will still, I think, tie it back to that song. But the sorry idea, right, is there's something pathetic about it, as Avon Kang might have said. There's something a little sadcore about it. There's an idea of like, oh, sorry, and to say sorry is kind of a pathetic thing. Or I think it was Nietzsche who said something like pity is pathetic or something. Famously, he said something like that. But it's not so much that as it is like, I think you would understand that like to the world as an American, there's a little bit of like, sorry, man, this isn't what we wanted. This isn't who we are. And so that sort of fits on that level, even though it's not related to the socio-political climate that we're in, per se, but it can. I mean, and if people want to look at it like that, then that's again, it's just to. I'll round off this little rant to this. I'll say, it's once you've created a thing, it's no longer ours. It's no longer mine. It's like when the listener takes away and whatever kind of meaning they create around it, and that's what we are as human beings, is we create meaning where there might not be any, maybe. Whatever that is, it's as valid as anything. Like it's not for the so-called artists, and I hate calling myself that, but okay, maybe I am. But it's once it's out of your hands and you put it out into the world, it's not yours anymore. It's kind of like a little kid you dropping off to school, and you kind of got to give it the little push and go. And like when it comes back to the Kanye West thing and going like, this is the greatest thing you've ever heard. And I think I said that at the end of one of these interviews, and I felt like such an asshole saying that. But I'm like, it's sort of like you're not giving it. You don't drop your kid off to the first day of school and go, okay, don't get beat up because you're kind of a runt and you're kind of dumb. You don't do that. You want to give them the best start, and so you prop them up. You try to infuse them or instill them with a sense of self-worth and whatever the thing, right? And so it's a kind of a funny thing that goes on. It's not for me to sit there going, oh yeah, well, we could have, should have done da 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 da, or this could have been this, or it wasn't quite that. It's just like, oh no, man, just go like, man, you're gonna love this. It's like when I go to work and I show up at work at 6 a.m. and somebody says like how are you going or whatever, like, and I'm just like, and sometimes I'll go like, I don't know, I guess I'm okay. I'm like, yeah, mostly good. And then like, that sounds so pathetic. And so what I've tried to do is say like, oh man, I'm so fucking good today, even though I don't really feel that necessarily. But what's strange about that, Billy, is that you start feeling that. You know what I mean? And again, that sounds kind of cheesy and whatever, like I'm some kind of like life coach, but it's weird, man. It's like, it's fake it till you make it kind of, adjacent or something.
I overuse the word sorry. Now it's lost its meaning. I overuse the word. Now it doesn't mean anything. I overuse the word sorry. Now it's lost its meaning. I overuse the word. Now it doesn't mean